Hi everyone, welcome back to OpenLine here on News Channel 5 Plus. My name is Chris Conti, filling in tonight. Arriale Tabson is here from the Highway Safety Department, also Bill Miller from the Tennessee Highway Patrol. We're talking about all things highway safety. We're talking a little bit about some new vehicles that we're going to be seeing on the road coming up. And we want to open things up to the phone lines now. I think it's all right. I think we got Raymond online too. Let's see if Raymond's there. Raymond, hello?
Hello.
Thanks for calling in. What's going on?
Yeah, will they be required to have like at least liability insurance on them too?
That's a good question. We haven't talked about that yet. Insurance. What has to happen if you're driving one of these, or if heaven forbid you get hit by one?
And that's a very good question. And yes, to answer that question, you are required to have insurance on that vehicle.
So it's just like a car.
That vehicle is required
because it's getting registered, and
that is exactly correct. And the operator of that vehicle, he or she's required to fully comply with all rules and regulations of the roadway. So stop signs, so forth, red light, speed limits, and so yes, you are required to have insurance.
I feel like we were talking about distracted driving a little bit. This almost adds another layer of something else that people are just going to be looking at or seeing or distract. I mean, there's so many things out there right now. What have you guys been seeing in terms of distracted driving over the last couple of years? How does it play into things on the roads?
Well, it plays into a lot of major critical issues. We venture to say that distracted driving is just as a critical problem as driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs, because you really are doing the same thing to your senses. You're dividing your motor skills when you're driving distracted. A few years ago, back in Chattanooga, we started what was a semi-distracted driving tour, where we have a semi truck that we would drive, and troopers would sit in that truck and they would call out to troopers, and they as they spotted people driving distracted or not wearing their seatbelt, and another trooper would come and pull them over. And that's quickly spread to where we use a THP marked bus. And it's quickly spread to where Tennessee Highway Safety Office is taking it another step to where they utilize the bus and so forth that we have and incorporate local law enforcement. And it's known as the Tennessee Highway Safety Office Bus Tour Enforcement Campaign. And that's where troopers ride the bus, local law enforcement rides the bus, and you see, and really, Arriale's road. If you see it,
I've seen.
You can imagine it.
Nail
you'll
clipping,
see it.
paper reading.
Well,
I mean, it's just wild what people do out there.
Unfortunately, we see a lot of things, but the cell phone driving distracted, texting driving is your primary. And you really don't understand what it is that you pass as a driver. As if you're doing the speed limit, say 45, 55 miles an hour, you can pass so many vehicles and so many other drivers within that time it takes to send that text 4 to up to 7 seconds. You can travel the length of a football field or further, and simply not know or what you've passed or who you've placed in danger.
Right. I mean, I've seen some studies where they talk about just a part of the brain that it utilizes when you're either on the phone or texting, and it basically like it's almost like a switch on a train track where it's like your brain is diverted to another section. And like you said, you could drive by a semi on fire and may not even notice it because your brain is just not focusing on what's going on around you.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the biological side of it, because there's actually a lot of research being done about what's called the addictive app trade and brain hacking, where tech developers are coding apps and technology to intentionally make people addicted to it. So the notifications and anything that is drawing you to the phone, you're drawn into this cycle where you have about every 15 minutes you're checking your phone, whether there's a notification or not. But the technology, the way that it's being made, you're becoming addicted to it, and your brain is actually changing and having reactions to it. And I've also seen studies where they're saying that we now have new brain waves and different types of brain activity because of these devices. And because of this addiction, it's very hard for people to put their phones down, of course, but also it can cause anxiety and depression. There's correlations there, and then also something to do with cortisol. It affects your cortisol levels and how your brain distributes that chemical. So there are a lot of things that we're just now learning about technology and the way we're becoming addicted to it. And our children, they say now that toddlers are learning to swipe before they're learning to wipe. Okay, You've got 2-year-olds that know how to get on an iPad and online ship through Amazon faster than we can. They're so savvy with this technology that they're becoming overly dependent on it. But it's not just our youth, it's not just teens or millennials, it's also our older adults. Because when you have your older generation and your baby boomers included, they've been driving for so long, they don't want anybody telling them how to drive.
Right.
Don't tell me what to do, don't tell me to put my phone down. So we almost have to teach this older generation, we have to reprogram these brains to want to learn more and practice safe driving. It's almost like we have to reinstill and reteach what safe driving is, because we've become so dependent on technology and we've become so distracted by things in the vehicle and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and kids in the back with their iPads. We've forgotten what it means to just drive.
Yeah. I know it's always confusing state to state. What are the laws surrounding texting and driving and being on the phone and driving in Tennessee?
Well, as far as in other states?
Here, sorry.
Yes, here in Tennessee, you can be on your cell phone and use your cell phone as a cell phone. Dial your number and actually call someone. Now the challenge,
have it up to your
up to your ear.
Because some states you can't even.
Yeah, we're not a hands-free state yet. Now whether or not that's going to happen, that'll be down the road in the future. But now in Tennessee, you cannot use your phone or electronic device to send a text, receive a text, email, get online, social media, anything such as that while you're driving.
While the car's moving.
Yes. Now you can use that as a cell phone. Now the challenge for law enforcement for us is that the motion of dialing a number is extremely similar to that of texting.
Right.
So what we have done as Tennessee Highway Patrol, we went out and we met with the General Sessions Court, the judges of each court in 95 counties. And the overwhelming majority of those counties, those judges understand the problem that we have. And they support us in the fact that we also enforce a law that's already on the books, that was on the books before the distracted driving law, and that's the exercise due care law. And that law simply says that you as a driver are required to give full attention to the safe operation of your vehicle to avoid possibly being involved in a crash. Now, anything and that encompasses anything. If you're doing anything in your vehicle that causes you to cross the line, have erratic stopping and going, anything that's not a smooth operation of the vehicle or safe operation of the vehicle, then you can and probably will be stopped by a trooper. And that law has caught on with other law enforcement agencies, and many other agencies are enforcing the same thing.
What's the hope there with pulling people over? With and not just aside from obviously getting that one person, but in terms of making other people paying attention to what's going on, and that that it shouldn't be happening.
Well, it's a huge problem, and to kind of allude on what Arriale was talking about, we're in such a need to know, have to have society right now. We all want to have an instant connection with someone. We're so concerned and preoccupied that we're going to miss a message, we're going to miss a phone call or a text or email, that we simply just really are addicted to our phones. And if we would simply leave the phone alone and just drive and focus on what it is that you're supposed to be doing, we'd be much better off and much safer on our highways. Again, like I said, last year we had 1,042 people who were killed on Tennessee roadways. Many of those crashes were on straight roads where there was no curves, no inclement weather, and vehicles crossed the center line and struck another vehicle head on, and we had mass fatalities out of that crash. And again, a lot of that is contributed to someone looking down and driving distracted. And you also have to look at this at night. As you drive at night and you're staring at that phone just inches from your eyes, your eyes take a moment or two to refocus once you come back up to looking down the road.
We were talking about just kind of the legality of some of this and with the phone, and what happens when you are just looking at that glance? I mean, that 1 second, maybe you just look down for a moment to see that notification or that text. And
our previous colonel had a very strong message about distracted driving, and that when I first heard him say that, it stuck with me, and it's something that I use with my children. 1 second can ruin the rest of your life. And that 1 second or that one moment, that one bad decision to look down at that phone or just to grab that phone to just check to see if you received a message, or to start texting a message, it could ruin your life. And I'm not referring to just by you being injured or killed,
right,
but you could injure or kill someone else due to your one bad choice.
I feel like this is a good opportunity to ask people to call in if they want. Our number is 615-737-7587. Maybe you've been involved in some kind of crash with distracted driving and you want to talk about it, or you know someone who has. Feel free to call in. We do have Wayne on line 1, I believe. Wayne, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I appreciate you taking my call.
No problem. What's going on?
Well, first I want to make a comment and ask you a question. I'll be real quick.
Sure.
It's encouraging to see the Tennessee Highway Patrol, as professional as they are, being proactive instead of reactive. They basically see ahead of time what needs to be done instead of waiting for it to happen and dealing with a train wreck. So I applaud them, and it's encouraging to see the way they act. Number one, they're very professional compared to other law enforcement agencies. I just want to know, what kind of training do you have to go through? It's got to be completely different from what Metro and the Sheriff's Department goes through. And can you tell me psychologically, I don't mean to be picky, but psychologically, how far do they go before a state trooper is approved?
What's the training process like?
And Wayne, and thank you very much for those comments. And we do have a very professional local and city agencies across the county and across the state, excuse me, that we value partnering with, and we definitely respect and value them. The training that a trooper has to go through, it's extensive. It's very extensive. First of all, the hiring process is not anything that is easy in itself.
Right.
So once you apply and you're approved to come in for an interview, you first, before that happens, you have to meet one of 3 criteria, which we refer to as a preferred candidate. And that's where you have a minimum of 2 years law enforcement or 2 years of college. And that doesn't have to be an associate's degree, you can have the actual hours. So 2 years of college or 2 years of military active duty enforcement. And if you meet that, you can come into the academy, and then you'll begin the process of the obstacle course, the orientation, the oral interview, the background checks, the psychological, the drug screening. And when I say background checks, we really dig deep into an individual's background. And our Colonel Derek Stewart, he took office in June 1st. He said this once, he's said it 100 times. He would rather graduate 1 highly qualified trooper than to graduate 100 that are not.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we're trying to do.
How long is the training process?
The training process is 20 weeks in-house. That's at our Tennessee Highway Patrol Training Academy here at Stewart's Ferry Pike in Nashville. Once you complete the 20 weeks of training at our facility, you then go out for an additional 10 weeks of training on the road before you graduate. Once you graduate, your training continues. You'll then come back to the training center where you'll be put through another extensive series of training that involves commercial vehicle inspections, and you go from the basic crash investigation which you received in the academy. You now go to an advanced crash investigation class, which is extremely tough.
Yeah.
So we really do put our troopers through a lot. When I went through the academy back in '97, it was 6 months in-house before you graduated. Then you went out for additional training and field training on the road.
Wow, it's quite extensive. Quite extensive. Gosh. We need to take a quick break. Again, if you want to call in and talk to us about anything having to do with distracted driving or highway safety, some of these new buggies that are on the road, 617-737-7587, and we will be right back.